Hello, Mr. Ed here on a, as you can see, gorgeous October 23rd, 2023. And as it's at the end of October, our goldenrod and pretty much everything is getting ready to shut down. Heck, you can even, well, I hope you can see it, but in the back, by the pond back there, our only real color in Louisiana is from our tallow trees. It's our main nectar, and it's also our fall color. Back there we got some tallow trees turning that little nice yellow reddish color, one of the few colors that we get to see in our woods, because most of it's just all pine and oak, so it's either green and then brown. And but so it is nice to see some of that tallow out there changing out. And so what am I doing today? Well, today is just the start of it. What I want to do today was to come back in the back, and any dead outs that I have, I want to pull them in. And the reason I want to pull my dead outs in right now is because generally at this time of the year, when there's nothing really going on with the bees, I'm already starting to clean up my frames and getting ready for the spring of next year. And it's like one of the most dreaded jobs that I have, cleaning beehives, especially getting my frames ready. In fact, I'd almost rather just buy brand new equipment than have to deal with it. But as the cost of equipment is just getting so exorbitant, it's just better if I take the time, since I've got it, to go ahead and clean up my equipment. And usually that process is really boring and like no fun at all. But this year, helping with me on that was I heard about some old ways of cleaning up your frames. So I took that idea and kind of modified it a little bit. But what was the really game breaker for me on this whole deal of cleaning our frames, our boxes, getting them ready, was how am I going to get my frames ready to accept the foundations after I put my wax on them. And clean up, your frames. You get a frame like this, which, it's really not that bad. It won't be too hard to clean up. That one, not too hard to clean up. But some of these things I'll actually pull on the side to use as my swarm traps for next year if they're good enough. Some of them, if there's no damage to the comb, I'll go ahead and stick those, and they'll become brood boxes. But when you get a box like this, full of wax moth and the damage of the wax moth, I mean, this is normally, I would just say I'm not even fooled with it. When you get, a frame that looks like this, all the cocoons, it's just hardly even worth the effort to clean that. But this year, I figured out something a little bit different, and it's a modification of an old way of doing it. And I'm going to show you that process of how I do it. But what really a really cool way that I figured out on how to do is how to actually clean these foundations. And I mean, yeah, you could scrape this stuff off with a hive tool, but there's a lot of manual forcing going on in there. And then when you get into where the cocoons are, it's just a nasty job. But the process I've got now is really cool. So we're going to go back to the front now. This is the only one I had out here that was a dead out. So we're going to go back up into the front, and I'm going to show you the process of how I go about getting my wax off of my frames and prepping my frames to get them cleaned up. Let's take a trip up to the front of the attic. I'm guessing there's a few of you out there that were wondering what the heck are all those logs doing in that field as I was coming back in. And every year, right before the seminarians go home at Thanksgiving for their break, they do a big bonfire. They build a huge bonfire back there, and those are the logs that they use. And heck, who knows, maybe this year. In fact, I'll throw some video of that the bonfire that they make. I'll throw that in at the end of this video if you want to go check that out. So that's what all that logs was. But for right now, let's get inside here and get busy with our job for this afternoon. I think I've got everything pretty much set up. These are just the first round of boxes that I need to go through. I got 2, 4, 10, 12, 14, about 18 or 20 boxes that I got to go through to clean up. And they're not all full of frames, but they're at different stages. And for all practical purposes, the hive tools are simply, they're great. It's a great tool. But when you're looking at this many boxes to clean up, it's just like a daunting task. And nobody wants to do it. Some things, the hive tool still is, the best tool for the job. But when it comes to cleaning the frames off, and remember, I want to save my wax. The wax is valuable, so I'm going to be putting all my wax into the garbage can. Well, it's a garbage can, but it's got a liner. And I want to save it off because I want to render it down. I want to get wax out of it to give back to the bees. So we all have used our hive tools. Okay, so this box, some of these, that's an absolutely good enough frame. Got a little bit of wax moth on here. Clean that off. This frame right here is going to be one of those frames that are going to be going into a swarm trap. Because there's nothing wrong with it. I wouldn't put it in a box for a brood, because I'm just cleaning off a couple of the cocoons on it. But I'm going to grab the next frame. I'm going to grab a really nasty one that I know that is nasty. I want to show you what this thing is going to look like. All right. So here's our frame. This may have been one that we showed you out there in the field. I don't know. So it's not terrible bad. Hive tool could probably be a good one to use on this one, but still, I want to show you what I came up with, thought about to use to clean this thing up, to make this operation faster. And that is one of these oscillating tools right here. Utility tool. There's so many names for this tool. And the deal with this thing is now we're basically putting a motor on our hive tool, because this doing the same thing as this, but it's got some power behind it. And so for me to do this, I'm just going to slide it. And then everything just comes off of it. I can use the tool to knock the cocoons off of it, off the sides, off the edges. I mean, it's just this is the trick. I'm gonna show you. I'll do a couple of these things and put the camera up real close so that y'all can see how it works. One other thing, that after I finish cleaning the wax off the foundation, I'm going to pull these foundations off, because we still got a job to do with our frames themselves. And you can see there's still a lot of stuff that needs to come off of that. but the next step, that's going to take care of that. So let's clean up a couple of these frames. Anyway, you get the gist. This son of a gun, it's gonna make a lot shorter work of this job than this tool will. So I got a bunch of them to do. So let me get busy with these. Tomorrow we're gonna pick this thing up tomorrow, and I'll show you all the frames that I've got, and then we're gonna move on to the next step, which is cleaning the frames. Now all the foundations that I pull out of here, all this will be set on the side, and these will all be pressure washed later at at another day. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Well, I didn't get that getting all those frames done yesterday, so I had to finish that up this morning. And man, look at the pile I got over here. Here's all my foundations. I did 10 boxes. I did 10 boxes. Those 2 boxes right there, those are going to be for brood, because that comb was actually good enough to save. I didn't have to do anything with this stuff. I think it's beautiful stuff. I gotta just leave that stuff alone. But all these boxes now are foundationless, and they are now ready to head over to where a kettle is, and that's where I'm going to show you where the next little bit of magic is going to happen. Let me load these things up into the buggy and bring them over there. Got the buggy all loaded up, but I forgot to show you one thing in here. Look at all the wax that I got in here. I guarantee that's a half of a garbage can of wax. Gonna be interesting to see how big of a block that this stuff makes, along with all the other wax that's gonna get melted off of our frames. All right, let's head over to the kettle room right now. Now it's time to get our frames that are all nasty, funky, full of wax, and we're going to start cleaning them up. And this method that I'm using right now, it's a very old method. All the old timers, they used to clean their frames this way. And it's basically just taking your frame and putting it in boiling water and allowing the wax, the propolis that's on it, to dissolve from the frame and in essence clean the frame up without all that scraping that you've done. I've known some people will bundle their frames up in 5s or 10s, groups of 5 or 10, and just dunk them in the water. Just let them sit in there for a few minutes, then pull the whole lot out and shake them off. I'm just going to be doing mine single with a single frame, one at a time. And I'm using this kettle right here, 30-gallon kettle, but you can use any kind of tub that's big enough to dunk a frame in. Mine's so big I can dunk it in. I'll dunk it in on the top and the bottom, and then on each one of the sides, and it should be clean. And all of this is going to be coming off. Let's do this one. Let's see how it looks. And my water is boiling, but I've got the kettle turned off. So I just submerge the frame just the top of it into the boiling water. Turn it around to the bottom. And what's really, really nice about this method is that any of the wax marks that are in your frames that you didn't get when you pulled out the foundation, this cooks them. So I just swirl it around in there just a little bit. And here you go. Look at that. Here's your top, underneath, your sides. I mean, it's just incredible how good this works. And then you can, at this point, when the frame is still warm, the propolis, you don't even scrape it, it just rubs right off. So any propolis that still is on the frame comes right off. Look at that. And now we really have a very clean frame. Very clean. And the best part is the track where our foundation goes into, that is completely clean of wax. And then you can also run your tool in there to clean anything else out. All right. I'm going to move the camera real close to the kettle and show you the process. All right, so you see our frame. It is really funky, dirty, nasty. We're just going to dip it in. Turn it around. That's it. Now I can scrape off all the other stuff very easily. But you don't even have to do that. Clean out my track. Now remember, this is a really dirty frame. Let's do a really not so dirty frame. So this frame, hardly anything on it. This one's not going to require much dipping at all. But what I really want to concentrate on is clearing out that channel where the foundation is going into, because I don't want to have any trouble when I want to slide that foundation in there. I don't want it to get hung up on anything. There you have it. Really nice, cleaned off frame. Our first box is now finished. And man, this is beautiful. Really, really nice. My only complaint is that it's about 80 degrees in here, and I mean, it's just warm. It's 2 o'clock, and I got to get going. So I'm going to pick this thing up. It won't be tomorrow, so it'll be on Friday. So I'll see you all just in a few days, and we'll get these things knocked out, and then eventually get all that wax boiled down, rendered. So until the next time, just hang in there. I'll be back. I finally got around to finish cleaning up all of my frames. Now today is actually the 25th of November, so it's been almost a month now since I started this project. And I'm telling you, with holidays and stuff going on, it's just like, man, I just it just got away from me, and besides, it was just too hot to do it. Last time I was doing it in here, it was 80 degrees, and I said, no way, we got to let things cool off before I do it again. So our temperatures have been dropped. In fact, this morning our temperatures were 40, 43, 44, something like that. So it's a perfect day for me to come out here and finish cleaning up these frames. And as I was cleaning the frames, I kind of picked up a few different thoughts and different ways that I could do it. Because as I was doing the frames individually, it worked. It worked. But it was painfully slow. And then I remembered what I said earlier. I said, well, some people would do them in bundles of 5 or 10. And so I thought, well, you know, if I just let those frames sit in that water, it would make my job a lot easier. So that's what I started doing. I started dumping in a whole box at a time, 10 frames at a time. And then the other thing that I started doing was, instead of pulling the frames out and cleaning them on my cart right here individually, I cleaned them in the tank. And by letting the hot water do the work instead of me, it just made a world of difference. And it really did speed up. It really did speed up the process. I'm going to grab the camera right now, and I'm going to show you how these frames came out, the last batch that I came out. Let me show you. This is the very last box that I did. The whole reason of what I want to do this for was so that I could get that crack, that groove right there, and right there cleaned out. And hot water does the trick. It really does. Also, you'll see that I was using my rubber gloves right here when I was doing this, and after the frame would come out of the kettle, I would then just rub it down with that glove. And look at the difference in the finish. These were not rubbed down. They're kind of speckly. It's not that they're bad or anything, but these certainly look a lot prettier than those right there. And also thinking that there is a thin layer of wax now on all of these frames, so that may give the bees an incentive to get onto the foundations once I've got the foundations in the frames, and then throw them up onto the supers to be their honey supers. One more thing about what I did as well, after I would take the box of the frames out of the box and clean the frames, the empty box, I would then dip that inside of the tank as well. And you can see I would dip it in about 2 inches in there, and that way I could clean all the propolis along the frame ledge right there. Instead of scraping it out, just let that hot water do its thing, loosen it up, and you can scrape that stuff right out. Just keeping it in the water, it just washes it off. Another great lesson that I learned doing this. Let's wrap this video up. There you have it. Another job done. But this same job has got to be repeated probably about 5 or 6 more times before the springtime. And starting next week, Charlie and I will be going to visiting our yards and pulling all of our honey supers off. Any hive that's got 3 supers on it, we're going to reduce it down to 2 to get our bees to go through the winter with 2 boxes. That way, come springtime when we do our splits, everything's down to 2 boxes. And then as well, we'll pull any dead outs that are out there and come back, and I'll start this process up again. A couple of things that I really did want to say about the process. Hot water really does do a job on cleaning out these frames. There is no way that the cocoons stand a chance against that hot water. Even if the hot water doesn't take the cocoon out all the way, it loosens up so much that when I would stick my little screwdriver in there and scrape it out, it would pop right out. And I'm talking about the cocoons that are in the little ends of each one of the frames, if there are any in there. I mean, hot water really does trick. It really does. And I use the kettle, but again, all you have to use is a pot underneath a boiler, and you could do the same thing. And you won't have to do as many as I have to do, I'm sure. And you'll really be impressed at how easy it is and how clean it gets your frames. So that's all I got for you in this one. So thanks for watching. Keep on watching, and I'll be making more. God bless. Mr. Ed, I'm out until the next video.
All right, I know I told you I was gonna get you some pictures of the bonfire, and unfortunately I missed the pictures. Reason being, Mona and I were out of town. When I left on Thursday, the word was there was going to be no bonfire because of the burn ban. Now, we have been having rain every day since Wednesday or Tuesday, and apparently they were able to get the okay to have the fire. And when we were gone on Friday, they built it. And then on Friday evening, they burned it. So that's all last minute stuff. So right now, yeah, it's just the remnants of it.